Jacob Burton here from StellaCulinary.com, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a salmon rillette, and we use the belly and trim that we generate during the fabrication process when we're portioning those nice fillets for our entrees. So this is a great way to use your scrap or your waste product when you butcher your salmon. So here we have our standard ingredients of kosher salt, some curing salt, sugar, white pepper, tarragon, butter, and lemon, along with some white wine. And we're going to start by weighing out our dry ingredients. So here I have some kosher salt, some sugar, some white pepper, and the percentage you see to the right of the actual weights that I'm using is the percentage based upon the total weight of the salmon, which is 1,000 grams. So we're basically setting the salmon weight at 100%, and we're calculating based on that just to give you a ratio idea. So 2 grams of sodium nitrite, which is, the nitrite is nice to both retain that pink rosy color during the cooking process and also adds a cured flavor. So I'm going to place the salmon belly, which is 1,000 grams or 100% based upon our ratios, into a vacuum bag on the scale. And for every 1,000 grams of salmon and its corresponding ingredients is going to fit into one 10 by 6 inch vacuum bag. So I'm going to show you how to do this rillette both sous vide process and also the standard classic poaching process. But I prefer sous vide, so if you have an immersion circulator and a vacuum sealer, that's kind of the way to go. I think you have a better outcome on the overall flavor, but the traditional poaching method is fine too. So basically what I'm doing here is all the ingredients in the bag. You have your white wine, your butter, and your dry ingredients. You want to make sure that you're stirring those dry ingredients so they disperse evenly throughout the sugar and the salt. Just going to make it a lot more of an even distribution during the cooking process. And then I'm going to place this in my chamber vacuum sealer, take out any spacers because there is liquid in this bag. So I'm going to kind of let that liquid settle to the back portion of the chamber vacuum sealer, place the bag over the seal bar, and making sure that I crimp down the bag nicely so I can get a nice tight seal without the water being pushed through. And then go ahead and close this. And for my particular chamber vacuum sealer, I'm going to place the seal setting on about 30 seconds. You want to seal it just enough to get all the air out so the bag does not float when you place it into your circulator. Now, if you don't have a circulator, you can take the exact same measurements of the 200 grams of butter, 200 grams of wine, and place it into a pan with your dry ingredients. Here I'm just using a metal third pan, but really any pan that's large enough to hold all the ingredients is fine. And I like to place the butter and the wine on the bottom, that way the salmon won't stick during the cooking process. Cold salmon scraps right on top. And then you want to cover this with foil so it kind of steams and poaches at the same time, and place in a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes or until the salmon is mid-rare, so kind of pink on the inside and easily flakes. Now for the sous vide process, you're going to cook the salmon sous vide in the vacuum bag at 131 degrees Fahrenheit or 55 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes until it's cooked all the way through and starts to flake. Now, after the 20-minute cooking time in the oven, go ahead and pull it out, and you'll see that we kind of achieved the same results whether we baked it in the oven or cooked it in the sous vide bag when we pour it into our mixing bowl. But again, I think that there's, I've done side-by-side tests, and I prefer the sous vide method only because it's a lot easier. It's a lot more forgiving than baking because every oven is different. But also, too, I feel like you get a little bit less flavor loss. So either way, we're going to go ahead and place both our poached version and our sous vide version into a large mixing bowl. And then I'm going to zest in the zest of 2 lemons. So basically, for every 1,000 grams of salmon, I'm going to use the zest of 1 lemon to add some nice, citrus, floral flavor. And I'm going to take those same lemons after I zest them. I'm going to juice them into the mixture as well. After this, I'm going to take some tarragon, and I'm just doing this to sight. You can add less tarragon, more tarragon. And this, you don't have to even use tarragon. You can use chervil or parsley or whatever. Give it a quick little chop. And now using some gloves, I'm going to hand mix. And you want to hand mix this while it's still warm. That's very important. So while the liquid is still fluid and warm, you want to mix by hand, turning it into little flakes. But you don't want to mix it so much that it turns into a paste. You want to have some particle definition when you're done. And kind of suspend the flesh of the salmon in the liquid. Now here I have some 6-ounce ramekins I'm going to spray with some pan release spray, and you can use olive oil. Butter isn't a good idea because butter will turn too solid and you're going to have a hard time unmolding it, but I prefer just the regular spray oil, the nonstick spray oil. And then I'm going to give the salmon rillette mixture a good stir every single time before I load it into the ramekin. Load it almost all the way to the top and then pack it down with a spoon so I have a nice even layer. And when filling the ramekins, you want to make sure that you leave just a little space on the top, maybe like a centimeter or two, so you can go back and cap it with clarified butter. So here I have warm clarified butter. I'm going to spoon this over the top of the rillette. And the purpose of this is going to seal the rillette in the container, in the ramekin, and keep oxygen and light from getting to the meat. And this is what's going to allow the salmon to cure, because a rillette is basically a cured meat product. Now, it's a lot easier to actually do this in your refrigerator if you have the room, but here I'm just doing it on the table for the sake of the camera shot. And I'm going to place this in my refrigerator for at least a week to allow it to cure. Now, as you can see here, that fat cap or the clarified butter has solidified over the top, keeping out the oxygen, keeping out the air, which is going to allow my salmon rillette to cure. And then when I'm ready to serve, I'm just going to simply use one of these nifty offsets mini spatulas here, being very careful to flex it towards the side of the ramekin so I don't chunk the actual rillette. Give it a couple of spins, pull it out of the ramekin. Now here I'm going to cut it in half because a full ramekin portion is kind of a lot. So I usually cut the 6-ounce ramekin in half and then serve it however you like, really. It's just basically a tasty cured salmon spread. So I'm going to do just a little bit of a frisee dressed with our house vinaigrette. Some capers on top are nice. They add a nice little saltiness and brininess to the mix. And then dress it with a good cold-pressed olive oil, pretty much anything that you want. And then at the restaurant, we like to serve it with homemade seeded lavash, which is basically a seeded cracker. And I'll put a link to this in the show notes. For more information, you can check out those show notes at stellaculinary.com/HCC7.